I see a green button.
And there we go. We are live with head coach Geoff Buffum from the Calanda Broncos. The Broncos just won the Swiss championship, so we had to get Coach Geoff on. Thanks for being a part of it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
How's everything going? How's it feel to be the Swiss champs?
I was really happy for the players and for the coaches. You know, they put in a lot of work this offseason after we lost the championship game last year. Didn't make much time, didn't waste much time getting back to work. The guys put in a bigger commitment in the offseason and sustained it all the way through to the end. So to see their faces after the game was over was it was a good feeling.
That's fantastic. And Coach, how long have you been with the Broncos?
I just finished my third year of my second incarnation, 4 years in total.
Excellent. And this is your first championship with the Broncos, correct?
Well, we won the Euro Bowl in 2012, and then we won the Swiss Bowl in 2015 and 2017.
Okay, got it. Well, and what do you accredit it to this year? I mean, do you accredit it to the domestic players, the chemistry of the teams? Talk about your imports. You know, how did you guys put it together this year to win the Swiss Bowl?
All of the above. Domestic players, we had some growth. Looking at our roster, we had 42 guys dressed for the final game. 16 of them are brand new to football since 2015. Had never played football before. And, I'm really blessed to have three very excellent local coaches, Danny Zinsley, Walty Chechel, who have been with the club since it was founded back in 1991. Bastian Now, who's a German who moved into the area with years of GFL playing and coaching experience. He moved nearby just for work reasons, and he's done an excellent job with the offensive line. We had our starting right tackle and the guy that had to play the second half of the game at left guard due to injury. Both of them had never played football before 2017. And so it shows you what Bastian can do. We also had really, good fortune again with our import players. We've had Bastian, Frenchie, I don't know his last name, we just call him Frenchie. He's got his third year in with us now. Anders Mathis, who's been here since the Carter administration, I think, at left tackle. And then we were really fortunate. We had to go get two new Americans this year. And we had Clark Evans at quarterback and Jeff Worthy at defensive line. We hadn't had a defensive lineman in the past. After last season, we felt like that was the area that needed the most improvement. Sure. And Jeff came in as both a player and as a coach. Did a tremendous job, and then Clark as a quarterback, certainly a different style of quarterback than you see. I mean, he's a dual threat, but not the kind that that can throw it and make people miss. He's more the kind that can throw it and just run people over. Yeah, 6'4", 240 pounds, and just doing some of the cut ups from the season. Just some runs where the blocking gets him 5, and then he gets another 10, 15 more. Just because, he's bigger and faster and stronger than the guys trying to tackle him. So, you put that together this year. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't note that we had for the first time an American defensive coordinator. And Jake Hale came to us from Texas with some years of high school and college experience, but it was his first coordinating experience. And he did a great job. Defense played outstanding throughout the season, but especially down the stretch when it mattered.
Excellent. And we actually have our first question, and it fits right in with what I wanted to ask you. Okay. It's from Joe Buchanan, and he said, "What's the key to successful recruitment in the local region of Switzerland?"
I would say here, I mean, the patterns are the same everywhere, but especially here, you really have to be extremely proactive in terms of we go out to schools throughout the year, especially when the imports are here. In addition to their regular duties, every week, usually once, sometimes twice per import, we'd have, 3 or 4 appointments a week, going into schools, demonstrating the sport, running a school lesson, dropping off, info flyers. We've got a lot of people that way. We have tryouts. Everyone does that. Mm-hmm. The biggest thing though, if we charted it, the biggest factor, the guys who came to football, how did you come to football? The majority of them came because a friend invited them. Right. And so that personal connection is very, very important. And so we always tell our players every year at the end of the year, go bring one guy to practice this off season. And if we have 30 guys and they all bring one guy and 20% of them stick, we just got 6 new players. So it's not one thing. There's more beyond that, but I would say, those things together, you got to be doing all those things, especially in a small town like this.
And what is the atmosphere of football in Switzerland? I mean, you talk about, bringing more players, telling people to bring another guy. I mean, is it growing every single year in Switzerland?
I would say the growth between 2012 when I was first here and 2017 is definitely tangible in terms of what's going on within the league. Even when I came back in 2015, I was actually the only professionally hired head coach in the first division, if you can believe that. And now 5 of the 6 teams have one. I think Switzerland's starting to realize that you need imports, you need good players. Coaching also plays a role in that too. And so that's the thing. What do you get? Imports or coaching? Both. You get both.
Yeah.
So that's one area where we've seen a lot of improvement. There's some good young coaches in this league. In Bern, you got Darius Willis, you got Evan Harrington and Winterthur. It's good to see teams making those investments in young, hungry guys with talent and experience.
No doubt. And I would argue that, the coaching staffs are equally as important as the imports. And obviously I would assume you would agree with that. I mean, it's what I've noticed from across Europe, from South America, is just the lack of knowledge. And if you have an American coaching staff, or at least a European coaching staff that's experienced, that's been to college football in the U.S. or a pro organization, it makes all the difference from the youth side of it all the way on up on how to structure practices, how to be professional, and obviously it's worked out for you guys. So
increasingly less about what passport you have and more about what kind of experience you have.
Exactly.
There are some excellent European coaches out there, and the inverse of that is also true. So I think obviously there are more American coaches out there than any other nationality, but you're starting to see now as guys go out and grab knowledge and go across the sea to get experience, go to other countries and get experience. I think it's very, very important that you're evaluating, on knowledge and not on background per se.
Yeah, of course. I completely agree there. And I think we're going to start to see a trend here in Europe of more of these European coaches who are born and raised abroad and, who are making their football careers, their professional careers.
You already see it. I mean, I don't know him personally, but the guy that was the head coach in Helsinki for a number of years, won of the championships there. He got hired down in Italy,
Coach
as an import coach. You know what I mean? So it's good to see teams, going out there and searching for the best fit for their organization, as opposed to let's just go get this guy because he's that, and that's a good trend.
Absolutely. And you saved the $1,000 on a flight, right? From the U.S.
Depending. I don't know. For whatever reason, international flights are getting a lot cheaper. I don't know if it's because of what do you call it, the popularity over here of our current president or what. But this was the cheapest flights I ever found for Americans this year. I don't know why that was. But.
Yeah, I got like a round trip flight from Minneapolis to Frankfurt for like $450. It was absurd.
Yeah. All right.
But all right, so Coach, talk about your journey to Switzerland. I believe you married a Swiss woman. Is that correct?
I did. We got married in 2014.
Perfect. So how did you end up in Switzerland, and how did you get to where you are today?
Well, when I was where do you start that one? We'll go to 2011 when I had moved back to California, and I decided I was going to set up shop there and work as an offensive coordinator at a local high school for a guy that I played with. And the great state of California said that even though I had a master's degree and I had taught in the University of North Carolina State University system, I was not qualified to teach junior high PE. I was in the process of going back to start my teaching credential program. And as I was starting that program, I got a phone call from 2 guys, actually, Marco Glavic and Johan Schnee, both of whom were players and also involved with the Calanda Broncos in 2011. They had already begun their process of trying to win a Euro Bowl and recruiting a lot of players. And they went to Vienna that year and lost to the Vienna Vikings in the quarterfinal game of the Euro Bowl. And so some conversations took place, and in those conversations, my name came up, and Johan and Marco reached out to me, and it was a really interesting opportunity. The fact that I knew guys that were here already, the fact that it was certainly an attractive situation. I said, well, I can go over there for 6 months and go try to win a European championship, and then I'll come home and get going on my career. And then two things happened. We won the Euro Bowl, and I met my wife, and then some plans changed after that. So after 2012, I continued working on my teaching credential, but I did most of it online, and I wound up taking a job with the Eidsvoll 1814s in Norway. I coached there for 2 seasons, 2013 and 14. You never want to compare your current job to any of your past jobs. So just talking about jobs I've had before this one, in terms of just like enjoyment, fun, that those 2 years in Eidsvoll were probably the most fun I ever had in coaching.
Really?
Going from a situation where you have a virtually unlimited budget and an entire coaching staff. I mean, that 2012 coaching staff in Calanda, you've got Dave Likens as defensive coordinator, who's won about 9 German Bowls and 6 European championships. As a defensive coordinator, most people don't even know that because he's not the kind to promote that.
Right.
You have a couple other guys that went back and coached, Division I football. You've got Jakob Dipplinger on that staff, who was the head coach of the Austrian national team when they almost beat Germany in 2014. Mm-hmm. So you go from having arguably the best coaching staff in Europe supporting you to, you're by yourself with 2 imports.
Right.
But in terms of practice attendance, in terms of coachability, in terms of just overall, who I'm working with on a daily basis above me and with me, it was 2 wonderful years, and it was very good preparation for what I found when I came back to Calanda. They reached out to me after the 2014 season. My wife is a elementary school teacher. She had a job down here. It was clear that I would have more success finding a job here than she would over there. So we made the decision to live here. And when I came back in 2015, it was a very unique challenge because, as has happened many times in Europe, a team has gone for a European championship. They've made a lot of investments, and then the funding kind of runs out.
Right.
And the results after that can be mixed. Hamburg Blue Devils were, when I first came to Europe, they were the team. I went to a game in Hamburg against Braunschweig. There's 30,000 people in the stands. Multiple Bowls, multiple German Bowls. That club doesn't exist anymore.
That's crazy.
So, and there's many examples of that. So, that was the challenge coming back in 2015, was to how to negotiate going through that kind of change where you're going from a team that was built very largely on the use of import players to a more traditional model, what we're doing now. So that's what we've been doing the last 3 years.
Yeah, I remember when I first started coming over to Europe, my first year would have been 2014. And I remember looking at the Calanda Broncos, and it was like straight import players across the board. I mean, and you guys were kicking ass. So what stemmed? I mean, is it the funding that kind of made you guys switch from the strategy of having a wide ranging amount of imports to kind of trying to focus on domestic players?
I mean, I was only here for 6. There was a stretch of about 4 years where the Broncos had good funding, and in that time, there was a new head coach every year. There were multiple changes. So trying to answer what was the global thinking between 2011 and 2014 would be, you'd have to get a lot of people in a room to find out the answers to that question. What I do know is when I came back in 2015, the president at the time, Bruno Chol, Danny Zinsley, who's been there forever as vice president, he's also our DB's coach. They said, okay, we will have a budget, we will have a team, but we can't go get. I mean, they had been scaling it back every year. The year I was there in 2012, depending on how you count it, we had about 20 imports on that team. Even in 2014, they had 10. And so they said, okay, now we're going to scale back to 4 or 5.
Sure.
And build mostly on local players. And that was mainly this is what we have. What are we going to do with it? And we made a decision to make some long-term decisions, to not concentrate so much on short-term results, but really try to start building up our youth players, go out and get new players, and really give these guys opportunities. Because one thing that happened, when you looked at our roster and you saw imports everywhere, there weren't that many opportunities for Swiss players.
Right.
There's only 10 guys on our current roster that were on this team in 2014.
Only 10.
10 guys. And they were asking, we played Basel in the Swiss Bowl final, and in 2014, Basel beat Calanda to win their first championship, and they asked me, how big is that in your mind? And I said, well, I wasn't here, and 32 of the 42 players on our roster weren't here. So in our minds, it almost didn't happen. So we're not really thinking about that at all. It's a lot's changed here in a very short period of time, and we're happy that we've progressed this far in this space of time.
No doubt. Well, a couple more things. So, how do you feel like Swiss football today compares to other countries around Europe? I mean, Germany, Austria. Obviously, the Calanda Broncos were winning Euro Bowls several years ago. I'm not sure you guys are at that status today, but what's the comparison?
Very difficult. I appreciate you picking the best two leagues in Europe to compare us to.
They're the standard, man.
Yeah, they are. Those two leagues are the two best ones. I would say, you throw France in there too. Yeah. It's very tough because, there aren't that many opportunities now to play internationally like there were 10 years ago. Maybe I should say it better. There are a lot of opportunities to play internationally. None of them are connected. We had a Big Six this year. I guarantee you the six best teams in Europe were not in the Big Six this year. That's just fact. We've got all these different things going on, lots of chaos. So it's very difficult to, there used to be a pretty clear structure. There was the EFAF Cup, where if you were in our situation, you were from a mid-range country and you won a championship, or you were a vice champion from a top country, you would go play in that tournament. And once you won that tournament, you would move up to the Euro Bowl. That's how we did it when I was in Innsbruck. That apparatus doesn't exist right now. So that's one of the things that we're, just this week starting to process is, okay, where are we going to go next year? I will say we did play a couple international games the last 2 years. We beat Stuttgart Scorpions in a preseason game this year.
Wow.
We played Allgäu Comets in 2016 when they had gone to the semis the year before, and they went to the quarterfinals that year. They beat us by 10. We played the Wrocław Panthers in 2016, back-to-back Polish champions, IFAF Europe champions last year. They beat us by 8. So I think we've shown that we can play with top 20 teams. Now the next step is, hey, let's try to beat a top 20 team. That would be the next goal for us to set. So, to answer your question, it's hard to gauge right now, and it's unfortunate that clear steps aren't in place for a club like ours that has reached a certain point, and now we want to test ourselves internationally, and we're just not sure, where to go to do that.
Yeah, understandable. Well, and I couldn't agree with you more in the sense that, like, where did that system go? It makes sense for the champions or vice champions of a league to move on to the Euro Bowl, right? Or at least compete to be in the Euro Bowl. And it's just so unfortunate what's happened to IFAF over the past few years. And obviously, I hope they're getting their shit together in the upcoming months, but that's to be determined. And so one of the final things I wanted to touch on was the different cultures of Switzerland and how you manage that. So we've got people speaking French, German, English, and then is it Dutch, the fourth one, or what's the fourth one?
Romansh.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that that's like a made up language. We actually have a couple guys that speak it on our team. It's it's very difficult. I mean, we go to the league meetings, and Switzerland's about the same size as Austria, where I worked for a number of years. Mm-hmm. We go to the league meetings, and we still are at the point where the official language of our federation is in German. So there's teams from the French part of Switzerland that have to bring translators to the meeting, and this poor woman is just trying to keep up with the bickering going on in German and trying to translate it for these guys in French. It's a real challenge. Hopefully at some point we'll all switch to English. I'd appreciate that too. But I'm sure the other clubs, everyone speaks some level of English. And so these are the kind of challenges that we face that some other countries don't. But every country has challenges that others don't. So that's just one I hope that we address pretty soon, because our league meetings are pretty interesting. It's very hard when people can't all communicate in the same language. That's certainly something to overcome.
Yeah, I'm sure. And the last question I got for you, and that I asked pretty much everyone that is involved in international football. I mean, what has coaching internationally, coaching in Europe, meant for your life? Obviously, it has become your life, but would you advise it to other coaches in the U.S., other players in the U.S., and just kind of expand upon your experience?
I've run into all sorts of people in the last 18 years. I'm on the one end where you come over here and you fall in love with it and you want to make it your life's work. Some other guys come over here and they don't like it. It just doesn't work for them. Some guys come over here for 1 year and they say, yeah, that was great. I had a great experience, but now I'm ready to do this. Some guys do it for a couple of years. I would just say it's worth the opportunity. It's worth, putting that into your resume and also into your life experiences. Interesting thing, my younger brother, Richard, works for the 49ers and he's a contract administrator. He told me years ago that on every interview he's ever been on, the one thing that always gets mentioned is when he and I played together with the Swarco Raiders, then the Papa Joe's Tyrolean Raiders in 2000. Every single interview he's ever been on, people have asked him, "Hey, what's that about?" Mm-hmm. And what do you call it? That's been a very valuable, anecdote for him to share. It kind of makes him more, they get to know him a little bit better through that experience. So I would say it's worth taking the chance on. It's worth taking that opportunity. Maybe you'll love it, maybe you won't, but it will change you. It will open your eyes. I'm certainly much different now than the first time I came over here. The changes, like not everyone's at every practice. This guy's going to miss a game because his girlfriend's daughter is having communion. Just the things that would make your head explode when you're at a college program are things that you learn to adapt to over here. And I think it's worth the experience. So I recommend, especially if you get with a good program. There's good situations over here and there are bad situations too. Really important to do your homework to make sure, because if you get in a good program, you can have a great experience regardless of what your team's win-loss record is. And the inverse is true if you're not so fortunate.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more, Coach. And I just want to say thank you so much for being ambassador to the game. You've already taught me a lot. I know you're an idol of a lot of guys in Europe. And congratulations to you and the Calanda Broncos on the Swiss Bowl. And I wish you nothing but continued success in the future, buddy.
Yeah, thank you very much, Will. I really appreciate that.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach. Well, you take care.
You too.
See ya.
Bye-bye.